The crisp Chicago air, especially in the late autumn of 2019, held a unique bite. Eleanor Vance, 32, felt it keenest on her morning jog along the lakefront path, the city's skyline a jagged, magnificent backdrop. Her breath plumed white against the deepening gray of the sky, mirroring the determined rhythm of her stride. Life, for Eleanor, was a carefully constructed edifice of routine and precision. As a senior financial analyst at Midwestern Capital Solutions, a behemoth nestled in the concrete canyons of the Loop, her days revolved around complex models, meticulous data analysis, and the silent hum of high-stakes financial projections. She found solace in the ordered world of numbers, where logic reigned supreme and outcomes, however intricate, could be predicted with diligence. Her Lincoln Park apartment, though modest, was a sanctuary of minimalist design, reflecting her aversion to clutter, both physical and metaphorical. Weekends were for delving into thick historical tomes, exploring the Art Institute, or indulging in the city's nascent jazz scene. Eleanor was not one for grand gestures or dramatic pronouncements. Her strength lay in her quiet competence, her unwavering focus. This was precisely why her current assignment, the highly confidential Project Chimera, represented a pinnacle in her career. It was an acquisition strategy for a major pharmaceutical client, a complex dance of valuations, market forecasts, and proprietary algorithms she had spent almost a year painstakingly developing. Success here would not just secure her position, but cement her reputation as an indispensable asset. Her closest confidant, and indeed her only true friend within the ruthless corporate ecosystem, was Marcus Thorne. 33, a project manager at the same firm, Marcus possessed a charisma that Eleanor, with her quieter demeanor, found both captivating and somewhat intimidating. He was the quintessential networker, his laughter echoing down the polished corridors, his smile quick and disarming. They had met in college at Northwestern, an unlikely pairing of the introverted analyst and the gregarious future leader. Over the years, Marcus had cultivated an image of her protector, always looking out for her in the shark-infested waters of finance. "You're too good, Elle," he'd often say, his hand briefly resting on her arm, a gesture of comfort. "You focus on the numbers, I'll handle the politics." She trusted him implicitly, confiding in him her anxieties, her small triumphs, and every intricate detail of Project Chimera. He was a Scorpio, he'd often joke, hinting at a protective, intense loyalty, but Eleanor had always brushed off such astrological musings. For her, he was just Marcus, her friend. The presentation for Project Chimera was scheduled for a Tuesday, a mere 3 days away. The atmosphere in the office was electric, a palpable tension woven into the crisp efficiency of Midwestern Capital Solutions. Eleanor, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the adrenaline of impending deadline, was making final adjustments to her presentation deck. Her algorithms, the heart of the project, were complex, innovative, and had taken countless late nights to perfect. Marcus, ever the concerned friend, appeared at her cubicle door late Monday afternoon, a half-eaten bagel in hand. "You look like you're running on fumes, Elle," he remarked, his brow furrowed with what appeared to be genuine worry. "Let me do one last pass on your slides. Just to catch any typos, give you a fresh pair of eyes. You go home, get some actual sleep." Eleanor hesitated. She was exhausted, the kind of deep weariness that blurs the edges of judgment. The offer, coming from Marcus, seemed genuinely supportive. He had always been so meticulously careful with her work, a second pair of eyes she relied upon. "Are you sure?" she asked, a flicker of doubt quickly overridden by gratitude. "Positive. Go on, I'll lock up after myself," he insisted, waving her off with a reassuring smile. She gave him her login details for the shared project drive, something she wouldn't have done for anyone else, trusting his integrity completely. As she walked out into the biting Chicago evening, the relief of offloading that last, tedious review was immense. She slept soundly for the first time in weeks, dreaming of successful outcomes and a well-deserved bonus. Tuesday morning dawned gray and cold, a prelude to winter. Eleanor arrived at the office early, a renewed sense of purpose invigorating her. She smoothed the creases from her power suit, adjusted her pearl earrings, and headed to the executive boardroom on the 48th floor. The air was thick with expectation. Mr. Harrison, the formidable head of operations, and Miss Evelyn Reed, her direct boss, were already present, along with several senior partners and the client representatives. Eleanor took a deep breath, walked to the podium, and called up her presentation file on the large display screen. The moment the file loaded, a wave of icy dread washed over her, chilling her to the bone. Her meticulously crafted slides were there, but the critical data, the proprietary algorithms she had poured her life into, were missing. Replaced by placeholder text, corrupted links, and a series of generic, unhelpful charts. A cold, suffocating panic seized her. She tried to navigate to find the correct file, her fingers trembling, but it was all gone. Her voice caught in her throat, a strangled sound of confusion and despair. I don't understand. This isn't right. My files. Just then, Marcus, looking impeccably composed in a charcoal suit, stepped forward from the back of the room, a sympathetic yet subtly triumphant look on his face. "Excuse me, everyone," he announced, his voice smooth and authoritative. "It appears we've hit a snag. Eleanor has been working incredibly hard, pushing herself to the limit. I foresaw a potential technical issue with the primary drive this morning, so I took the liberty of preparing a backup, just in case." He smiled reassuringly at the stunned client representatives, then turned a glance, loaded with pity and a hint of something else, at Eleanor. "Don't worry, Elle, I've got this." He seamlessly took over the podium, calling up his presentation. It was eerily familiar, the structure, the visuals, even some of her unique turns of phrase. But the critical data points, the innovative algorithms, they were now subtly twisted, presented as his original contributions, the result of his foresight and extensive work. Eleanor watched, numb, as Marcus delivered the presentation with polished confidence, fielding questions with ease. He was hailed as a hero, the quick-thinking project manager who saved a critical client meeting from disaster. Eleanor was left standing by the screen, a ghost in her own narrative, accused by implication of negligence, sidelined, humiliated. The subtle, predatory gleam she caught in Marcus's eyes as he accepted the accolades, a look she had always dismissed as mere ambition, now screamed betrayal. He had not protected her. He had expertly, brutally used her. The next few days blurred into a suffocating haze of disbelief and despair. Eleanor was placed on administrative leave, an unspoken prelude to termination. Her calls and emails to Marcus went unanswered, or were met with vague, unconvincing excuses from his assistant. The silence from her colleagues was deafening, a stark contrast to the buzzing camaraderie she had once enjoyed. She retreated to her apartment, the sanctuary now a cage, its minimalist design mocking her stripped-bare professional standing. The betrayal by Marcus cut deeper than any professional failure. He was her closest friend, her protector, the one person she had trusted with her vulnerabilities. To realize his protection was a meticulously crafted illusion, a long-game strategy to exploit her, was a psychological blow that shattered her world. She paced her apartment, the polished hardwood floors offering no comfort. Her mind raced, replaying every interaction, every subtle nudge, every shared secret. She started sifting through old emails, project files, late-night chat logs. The pattern, once invisible, now shimmered with insidious clarity. Marcus's concerns about her workload, his insistent offer to review her files, it all clicked into place. He had swapped her files, or introduced the corruption, or both, ensuring her public failure and his triumphant ascent. He hadn't just stolen her work. He had stolen her trust, her reputation, and her sense of self. The Scorpio friend had not been protective, but venomous. But Eleanor Vance wasn't just a diligent analyst. She was meticulously organized, almost to a fault. A minor data scare early in her career, a corrupted hard drive, had instilled in her an almost pathological distrust of purely digital security. She had, against standard company protocol, but out of sheer personal prudence, maintained an offline, encrypted backup of her most critical work, especially for Project Chimera. This wasn't just a simple copy. It was a physical drive, stored securely in a fireproof safe hidden within her apartment, a relic of her analog-first approach to irreplaceable data. Furthermore, she was a prolific note-taker. Her spiral-bound notebooks filled with handwritten algorithms, development logs, and conceptual diagrams, each dated and meticulously indexed. Her advantage, she realized, was her forensic-level attention to detail and her unwavering trust in her own redundant systems. She knew her work inside out, every variable, every unique line of code in her algorithms. As the initial shock wore off, replaced by a cold, burning resolve, she retrieved the encrypted drive. There, pristine and untouched, were her original files, time-stamped and complete, predating Marcus's sabotage. She didn't stop there. She reached out to David Chen, a junior IT analyst she had mentored months ago. A quiet, brilliant young man who owed her a favor for helping him navigate a particularly tricky server migration. Discreetly, and with a carefully worded request about routine data integrity checks, Eleanor asked David to pull server access logs for the Project Chimera drive for the past 2 months, specifically focusing on any unusual activity or access patterns, particularly around the time of the final review. David, trusting Eleanor's always legitimate requests, provided the logs. What Eleanor found was damning. Marcus's login activity on the project drive, typically sporadic, had spiked dramatically in the days leading up to the presentation, including an unauthorized access session late Monday evening, long after Eleanor had left. More tellingly, she cross-referenced the server logs with her own offline backups. She found subtle inconsistencies in Marcus's backup presentation, minor stylistic quirks in the coding of a specific module, a unique error in a complex financial formula that she had initially made and then corrected in her final version. Marcus's presentation contained the corrected version, but the server logs showed he had accessed her original, flawed version before her final correction upload. This meant he had copied her work after she had corrected it, not before as a proactive backup. He had effectively swapped her working file for a corrupted one, while keeping a clean copy of her most recent, corrected work for himself. The picture was forming, but Eleanor knew Marcus was charismatic, and his story of being the hero would be hard to dismantle with just technical evidence. She needed more. Her memory, sharpened by betrayal, cast back to a former colleague, Sarah Jensen, who had left Midwestern Capital Solutions a year ago under mysterious circumstances. Sarah, a brilliant market strategist, had worked closely with Marcus on a major client pitch that, coincidentally, saw Marcus lauded for pivoting their strategy at the last minute after Sarah's sudden departure. Eleanor recalled snippets of conversations, Sarah's increasing frustration, and her eventual, abrupt resignation. The pattern Marcus exhibited with Eleanor felt eerily familiar. Eleanor tracked Sarah down. Now working for a competitor in San Francisco, Sarah was initially hesitant, guarded. But as Eleanor recounted her story, the floodgates opened. Sarah confirmed Eleanor's chilling suspicions. Marcus had systematically undermined her, planting doubts about her leadership in her superiors, subtly altering her reports, and ultimately creating a hostile environment that forced her out, allowing him to claim credit for her final strategic adjustments. Sarah, heartbroken and disillusioned, had simply wanted to escape. She revealed a crucial piece of internal email correspondence from Marcus, sent to her during that period, that in retrospect looked suspicious. A seemingly innocuous request for her preliminary findings on a specific market segment, sent just hours before a major internal meeting, which Marcus had then, miraculously, presented as his own during the meeting. Sarah had dismissed it at the time, but now, with Eleanor's context, it was clear. Armed with irrefutable proof, Eleanor didn't go to HR. She knew Marcus had allies, that he was adept at spinning narratives. She went straight to the top. She requested a private, urgent meeting with Mr. Harrison, the head of operations, a no-nonsense veteran known for his shrewdness and intolerance for incompetence or deceit, and Miss Evelyn Reed, her direct boss, who, despite her professional disappointment, had always respected Eleanor's work ethic. The meeting took place in a sterile, windowless conference room, far from prying eyes. Eleanor, calm and composed, laid out her case. She didn't shout, she didn't accuse with emotion. She presented facts. First, her original, time-stamped files from her secure, physical backup. Then, David Chen's detailed server logs, highlighting Marcus's unauthorized access. She meticulously pointed out the subtle errors in Marcus's original work that perfectly matched her corrected versions, an impossibility if he had developed it independently. Finally, she introduced Sarah Jensen's testimony, supported by the incriminating email exchange, demonstrating a clear, calculated pattern of professional sabotage stretching back years. Mr. Harrison, a man who rarely showed emotion, listened intently, his expression unreadable. Miss Reed looked visibly shaken, the pieces of a puzzle she hadn't known existed falling into place. Eleanor concluded, her voice steady, "Marcus Thorne did not protect me, Mr. Harrison. He meticulously planned my downfall, leveraging a fabricated sense of trust to steal my work and my reputation. But I protected myself by ensuring I had irrefutable proof of his actions and by exposing him before he could further solidify his position through deceit." The silence that followed was heavy, punctuated only by the distant hum of the building. Mr. Harrison leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "Thank you, Miss Vance. This is damning." The firm launched an immediate, discreet internal investigation. Marcus, confronted with the overwhelming evidence, initially tried to deny, then bluster, then finally to spin a tale of misunderstanding and accidental oversight. But Eleanor's evidence was too solid, too meticulously documented, too irrefutable. His past actions were re-examined, leading to the discovery of other, less prominent instances where colleagues had mysteriously underperformed, only for Marcus to shine. The Scorpio friend, who had pretended to protect her, was exposed not as a loyal confidant, but as a predatory manipulator. Marcus Thorne was not just fired, his professional reputation was irrevocably damaged. Midwestern Capital Solutions, a firm built on integrity and trust, acted swiftly to protect its name, quietly but effectively blacklisting him within the competitive Chicago financial sector. His name became synonymous with deceit, his once charming smile now remembered as a mask for treachery. He tried to fight back, to spread rumors about Eleanor, but the firm's internal report, though not made public, was devastatingly clear. He vanished from the corporate landscape, his ambition reduced to ashes. Eleanor Vance, having protected herself by ending her betrayer's career, was not just reinstated. She was given a well-deserved promotion. Project Chimera, now under her sole leadership, went on to be a massive success, exceeding all client expectations. Her innovative algorithms became a benchmark for the firm. She emerged stronger, wiser, and more successful, but with a permanent scar of distrust. She learned that true protection came not from the illusion of a protector, but from vigilance, self-reliance, and an unwavering belief in her own rigorous methods. The emotional weight of her revenge wasn't triumphant joy, but a cold, justified satisfaction, the quiet peace of having dismantled a threat and reclaimed her narrative. She had lost a friend, but in doing so, she had found her true strength.